I am Laura Isdell. I'm the co-chair for the ApplyTexas Advisory Board Committee. It is June 4th at 10:04 a.m. and I would like to call the ApplyTexas Advisory Committee to order. We have a few guests joining us today, and I'd like to welcome them. So Sarah Keaton, for the Associate Commissioner for Administration, Laura Brennan, Assistant Commissioner for College and Career Advising, Molly Gully, Senior Director of Advising Strategy with the Coordinating Board, Myra Marquez, and Joni Farrer, and members of the ApplyTexas Product and Project Management teams. I will now take roll call of the committee members to confirm we have quorum to conduct the meeting. And when I call your name, please come off mute, introduce yourself by stating your name, title, and institution. So, and again, we'll just go alphabetically by last name so that you can prepare for when you're going to get called. But we'll start with Tammy.
I'm Tammy Adams, Associate Vice President of University Registrar at Texas A&M San Antonio.
Thank you. Brian.
Brian Armstrong, Assistant Vice President for Student Enrollment, Texas Southern University.
And Callie.
Callie Blakely, Director of Admissions at Kilgore College.
Tessie. Don't think I saw. Okay, Katrina.
Katrina Brandt, Vice President, Enrollment Management and Marketing at Lamar University.
Brandy.
Brandy Enix, Director of Admissions, Texas A&M University.
Priscilla. Don't think I saw.
No.
Okay. Jamie.
Good morning, Jamie Hansard, Vice President of Enrollment Management at Texas Tech University.
And Cynthia.
Cindy Hess, Director of Admissions at Tarleton State University.
Myself, Laura Isdell, Collin College, Dean of Admissions. Maria.
Maria Juarez, Director of Enrollment Services at Amarillo College.
And Dara.
Dara
Sorry.
Newton, the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, Associate Vice President.
And Sarah, I will get it right, I promise. I don't think Mary's on. Catherine. Michael.
Michael Sanders, Associate Vice President of Enrollment at the University of North Texas.
Christine.
Good morning, Christina Velasquez, Director of Admissions and Recruitment at the University of Texas at El Paso.
Miguel.
Miguel Wasilewski, Vice Provost of Admissions at the University of Texas at Austin.
Lou.
Lou Waterhouse, Director of Admissions and Enrollment Services, Lone Star College.
And Beverly. Not here. Patty.
Good morning, Patty Young, Dean of Admissions, Records and Testing at Dallas College.
Okay, and I think I saw Matt Chastain.
Yeah, Matt Chastain, Associate Director of Operations at St. Houston State University. I'm here on behalf of Mary Pasquarello.
Okay, and is there anybody else serving as a proxy for anybody? Okay, well, we have definitely established quorum, so thank you all for that. Since we're meeting virtually, I'm going to review some meeting guidelines to help us manage the meeting today. As a reminder, this meeting is an open meeting. It is being broadcast for the public and being recorded for later viewing. Please be sure to mute your microphone when you're not speaking. A quorum has been established via roll call. In order to keep quorum, you must keep your camera on at all times. If you're not visible and we are no longer a quorum, and we will have to stop the meeting. There will be time for breaks as needed, but be sure to return promptly to proceed with committee business. To manage the committee discussion via Zoom, please unmute and identify yourself prior to speaking for the record. We ask that you wait for one person to finish speaking before you starting. Otherwise, it can be muddled or unclear. Should the conversation become unmanageable, we will direct us to use the raise hand feature. And this can be found if you click on the participants icon, and you'll see the 3 buttons towards the bottom of the list. You can raise your hand, but then you also need to lower your hand if you use it after you've had time to speak. And we'll only use that if we need to. For this meeting, when the committee will vote on items, motions will be voted on by raising your hand in the camera and saying aye in favor, no if opposed. At the end of the meeting, please be aware that the meeting is still being recorded. And so upon adjournment, we ask that you keep comments limited so staff can stop the recording. Before we get started with the committee business, I'd like to turn it over to Laura Brennan, Assistant Commissioner for College and Career Advising.
Thanks, Laura. And good morning. Thank y'all for joining today's meeting. We're excited to talk to you about some important ApplyTexas launch information and also just hear from you. Before we get started, I want to acknowledge all the time and effort that you and your team have contributed to this process, specifically testing. And we recognize that the level of testing your team has engaged with was a big ask, and we would not be where we are without your support. So please pass along our gratitude to all of your team who contributed. And now I'm pleased to introduce our Deputy Commissioner for Administration, Sarah Keaton. Sarah leads multiple divisions at our agency, including our technical team members in our Information Solutions and Services division. Sarah, I'll go ahead and pass it to you.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate y'all letting me join your meeting today. I want to echo Laura's appreciation for all of your time and testing and feedback. We really appreciate the partnership with y'all to work on a project of this size and scope is a major undertaking. This is the highest priority for our office and for our commissioner and executive team. This is sort of absolutely mission critical work that we have to get right. And we can't do that without the really strong partnership with y'all. And so we really appreciate that. So I am just here today to sort of, reinforce and echo what Laura said about how much we appreciate you and how much we welcome your feedback, and acknowledge that this is an incredibly high stress project and high stress time as we get ready to cut over and launch this. So I'm here today to listen to you all and also to just say thank you and how much we appreciate y'all. And happy to answer any questions that y'all might have that, that kind of from my perspective, that you think I would be sort of well positioned to answer. Otherwise, happy to just sort of go on mute and listen as y'all move forward with your meeting. And Christine, please go ahead.
Hi, yes, thank you. I do have a question. So during the testing period, I did put in several, I guess, requests or concerns or, requests for assistance, and I haven't heard back from any of those. Is there a timeline on when we'll be hearing back?
Yeah, Myra, do you have any feedback on that sort of specific timeline question?
Yeah, so what we're doing is anything that was reported during the testing period, we've at least acknowledged that we've received it from you all, but we are working through some of those. Some of those have been reported as issues and have been resolved, and so we're following back up with those. Some of those won't be resolved until after the deployment period as well, but I can check specifically on some of the ones you mentioned. I believe you're from UTEP, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And the most pressing one would be one with EDIs, but there are several requests for assistance that I put in.
Yep, we can follow up on any of those outstanding ones.
Thank you.
And just in case it's helpful to give you kind of a little bit of perspective on what we are sort of considering as sort of most critical in order to make the decision to cut over. And that is really kind of the EDI file submission, transmission, receipt process. So making sure that is working is absolutely critical before we make a decision to cut over. And then making sure that the application that ultimately is received through that EDI file transmission process has the data that you need to process the applications. So there might be things around kind of look or feel that we might have to do kind of post cutover as we continue to get feedback, continue to iterate, continue to improve. But what is most critical for us is making sure you all can receive the application and the application has the data that you need to move forward with it.
Hi, this is Cindy from Tarleton State. And since we are going live, I think my main concern now is communication to students, because if they can't complete the application, either we need a guide to tell them, this is how you can fix this or that, or someone that they can contact for assistance. Because our application is still open for summer and fall. And so we don't want that to stop. We want those students to still be able to apply. I know some schools do, or, theirs is already closed, but ours is still open. And so we don't want that to be a barrier for students. So I guess my question is, who do they contact?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point, because we absolutely acknowledge that, there's a lot of institutions that open up on July 1 and then August 1, but there's an ongoing process and institutions are accepting applications now. And so we were just talking this morning about kind of the help desk that we'll have set up for students and other users to request that help, and the importance of having something available as soon as this is up on the 10th for people to start requesting help. So that might be through email or ticketing in the short term, but ultimately we'll have a full help desk function for folks to use. And Myra, you might have more detail or color on that.
Yeah, that's correct. So we're working closely with the team here to stand up a help desk similar to the one that currently exists today, so that there is a channel for students to reach out to if they get stuck or they need help.
So it will just be a ticketing system rather than live or email. We'll need to know, like, turnaround, what to tell the student. And we'll need links to tell them where to go specifically, so that they don't have to dig and find that.
Yes, email's correct. That's the format it will take.
Okay.
This is Maria from Amarillo College, and we participated in the testing over the last couple of weeks, but I was never able to submit, nor to other people in my office who I'd given the link to. We never successfully were able to submit an application through the student portal, so therefore we never got to test the EDI. We had tested it originally with the test applications that were placed in the redesign page, and we were able to do an import of those, and the information seemed to be good, the information that we needed, but we were never able to successfully test off of submitting an application through our own test account information. Like, I migrated the information, but I was never able to successfully submit an application. So we never were really able to successfully test an EDI file. Any suggestions on how we're gonna address that? Because I mean, I understand some of those things won't be addressed until after the go live date, but that one's kind of a critical one, and I haven't heard back on that either.
Yeah, I think we'll have someone kind of reach out to you today to talk about that, because like I said, the EDI file transmission is the highest kind of priority to make sure y'all are receiving the applications. So I've just jotted y'all down as someone that we need to reach out to today to talk about that.
Sarah, can you add me to that as well? Because we had the exact same situation and didn't hear back.
Yes.
Here's my question. This is Tammy Adams from A&M San Antonio. I know you've addressed the help desk for students. What will be the assistance or help for the school, for the colleges?
Yeah, and Laura and Myra also look to y'all to provide any context on this, but my understanding is the help desk will be intended to serve both students and institutions.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes, all audience groups, actually, K-12 as well.
Randy Enix from Texas A&M. I have a question. Our EIS group was pulling the application information, the files, EDI, but none of the emergency contact information was showing up, despite the fact that we filled it out in the test apps, but none of that data is coming through. Any recommendations on when that'll be fixed and maybe when we might see that data?
Yeah, I know there were several fixes that we were working on at the same time that the team was working on the EDI transmission issues. So a lot of things were fixed, but then they were fixed sort of after you submitted the application. So then ultimately when it was successful, what showed up didn't necessarily have that fixed because we were working on both at the same time. So I'm not sure that I'm tracking that issue specifically. So I'll note that and see. It is my understanding that we have fixed all sort of critical and high bugs. So let me check and see on that one specifically.
And perhaps, Joni, we can also, I know you're providing an update here. If you want to speak up to that specific issue, if you have the insight on that, that'd be great. Or we can also just follow up.
Yeah, I think following up offline would be great.
Okay.
Christine Velasquez with UTEP again. I have a question. One of the things that I saw when testing and that my team saw is that a lot of the residency questions were all required, depending on however students answered. Was that bug fixed or is that considered a bug?
Yes, that is considered a bug, and that is something that the team has been working on, sort of the questions and the logic behind those residency questions. So yes, that should be resolved.
We also had some of that we put residency data in and then it wasn't coming. We could tell it was in, but then it wasn't coming in after we brought in the application.
Yes, and I know there was an issue with if you indicated you were out of country or international, then you were still being asked to pick a state, those kind of things. So yes, we've been working through those.
I believe it also required every student to submit a residency questionnaire. That was part of you. That's been addressed.
Yes.
Hey, Sarah, is there like a repository somewhere where all of the issues that have been presented and worked through and resolved? Like, is that going to be detailed anywhere in either an internal or public place?
Yeah, let me check on that. I know we've talked about sort of different options for kind of reports or dashboards or information that could be shared. So let me check on the status of that.
Thank you. We would be interested in that as well, just for historic.
And I know today there's a webinar at 4 p.m. where we will go over some of the issues categorized by what is resolved that you will see on the 10th.
Okay. I'm gonna just one last call for any additional questions before we move on.
Christina Velasquez with UTEP. Will we have the opportunity to sort of do a second test or no?
Yeah, I think at this point, for the most part, UAT has wrapped up. We are still sort of working internally to test a few things to make sure that they're working and that the bugs that we've put in place have been fixed. But in order to kind of meet the timeline of cutting over on the 7th to go live on the 10th, which is in part driven by some real sensitivity around July 1st being a really critical date for many institutions. I don't know that we have the ability to open up sort of another, broad round of testing for every school at this point. But I'm highly sensitive to the critical nature of this and the stress that can come along with this, and it's definitely, a project where it's hard to say that there can ever be enough testing given how critical this is. So I understand that it's difficult to sort of to be ready to go, especially if you haven't been able to run a test where you've seen all of the fixes come through.
We do have concerns about configuration with a launch date on the 7th. We've been working towards it, but making sure that everything's configured correctly is concerning.
And is there a reason why, this is Cindy from Tarleton, sorry. Is there a reason why we have to go live, like that we can't wait a little bit longer? Because this, I'm going to say it could be devastating.
Yeah, I think we're trying to balance a lot of factors and trying to make sure that we have time after we go live before we have a lot of application deadlines or things applications opening up on July 1st. I think that trying to cut that too fine creates a lot of risk as well. So I acknowledge that there's risk with this date. I think there's risk associated in different ways kind of with any cutover date that we pick. So right now we're still tracking to the 7th. That's predicated on confirming successful EDI transmission and resolution of these bugs. So we're working to verify that those things have been fully implemented.
Any other questions before we move on?
Well, I really appreciate y'all letting me come to the meeting and hearing feedback from y'all. And I'll plan to go on mute and just kind of listen for a little bit to the rest of the meeting.
Thank you too, Sarah. We are glad that you were able to be here too, and thank you, Laura, as well. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 2, which is the approval of the minutes from April 16th, 2024. If y'all can review that, it was in the meeting materials received via email. We'll give you a few minutes to review the April 16th meeting notes. And then if anybody has any edits or changes, go ahead and speak up. Just take a minute. Are there any changes to the minutes that anybody sees? And if there are none, do I have a motion for approval of the minutes?
Dara Newton, I move to approve the minutes.
And do I have a second? That motion was made by Dara Newton, and I just need a second.
Brian Armstrong, I second the motion.
Thank you, Brian. Members, those who are in favor, please raise your hand. We'll just do a quick count. And I think we're good. And if there's anybody who is opposed, can you please come off of mute and say no? Okay, the motion passes. And we're going to move on to agenda item 3, which is the update on ApplyTexas end-to-end testing. Since our last meeting, the ApplyTexas team has engaged institutions in rounds of ApplyTexas end-to-end testing, and I'm going to now turn it over to Myra Marquez, who will provide an update.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Let me pull up. I've got a couple of slides that I can walk through just based on some of the questions earlier, just to give you all a summary of the testing that occurred over the last couple of weeks, and then also some important reminders about go live to make sure that you all feel prepared for the deployment weekend that's coming up. Oh, I actually can't share my screen. That's okay. I can talk through the.
I just made you the host, Myra.
Okay, perfect. Let me put that here. All right. So I wanted to give you all a preview of some of what we're sharing later today as well during the webinar. But really wanted to summarize the testing that occurred over the last couple of weeks, May 20th to the 30th. We asked all institutions to test and report their results and any issues that they encountered. The issues that were reported and resolved for go live, we've summarized in this pie chart that you see below. And then the category of issues that we've logged, but will be fixed after deployment, are over here on the right-hand side. So we did hear issues with EDI transmission from institutions, and the team actually deployed a big fix in the past week to address that issue. And what we asked institutions to do was to go ahead and resubmit applications after that fix went in place. And then the other thing that this EDI transmission accounts for as well are the individual issues that we've been working on with institutions. So that's a big part of the issues that were resolved during testing. We also looked at issues with custom question configuration, application submissions, majors configuration, and field validations as well. So based on those, we've been resolving those and then communicating back when those are resolved. On the post-deployment side, we will continue to make edits after deployment is complete, specifically on edits on some of the conditional questions, continued enhancements on field validations, as well as residency and zip code updates that need to happen, and then also some payment setting screen design. So this is the broad categories of some of the issues that were reported and resolved or are on deck to be resolved. As mentioned earlier, we do have a summary within each of these categories of what the specific issues were. So we will share that out as part of the webinar as well for everyone's information. Also wanted to walk through some important reminders about the go live. So one, this Friday, the go live deployment does begin. And what this means is ApplyTexas will not be available to applicants or admins during this time. So there's already a banner both on the student and admin portal that it will be down at this time. The goal is June 10th. The ApplyTexas site is live. And so once that deployment is complete, we will send a notification out to the admins They will receive an email when the site is live, and then the banners and the site itself will be updated for anybody trying to access it. And again, we're working towards, making sure that institutions with a July 1st open application cycle are ready to go on that date. Some additional reminders that we just want to highlight here. So as I mentioned, the site will be down during cutover this weekend, and we will notify admins once the site is back up on the 10th. Also important to note that the URLs are not going to change for the applicant, admin, or counselor portals. Everything is staying the same. But what is important for everyone to be aware of, and this is going to be captured in banners that you all will see on the site, is the first time that a user logs back in to the website, if they have an existing account, they will need to click Forgot Password to reset their passwords the first time they log into this new system. So that's going to be important. We will migrate the email addresses that everybody uses to log in, but not the password. So it's important that they update their password in that first login. Folks will also have to use multi-factor authentication, which will take form in an email that will go to that user with a code that they then have to enter on the site in order to complete their login. So important things for folks to be aware of, and again, will be captured in that banner so that the first time individuals log in, they know what they've got to do to get back into the system after the 10th. Any questions on these updates?
Can I ask a question? Since we have the ability to identify everyone who has at least an incomplete application, so one in progress, is it possible to also send out an email from ApplyTexas to all of those users, letting them know that the next time that they log back in, that's what will happen? I'm mostly concerned about the people who have an application in progress.
I'm not sure. I'm going to have to take that one back to determine if first, what are the numbers of folks that are in that group, and then seeing what's possible from the current system. Any other questions about the upcoming deployment?
Okay, if not, then thank you so much for the update. And the next agenda item is an update on the ApplyTexas cutover and launch. So, oh, sorry, I think I messed up my transition. Myra, are you transitioning, or do you want me to go ahead?
Oh, yes, I'll transition back to you.
It's my fault.
Those were the updates myself and Joni were gonna cover those updates. So I just took them on for
Then we're good. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Myra
then
I'm
go ahead.
sorry, Laura, Myra, will you give back host duties, so if Joni has any presentations, we can switch over.
Oh, that was what we both planned to share.
Okay.
Okay, so then we've done both of those updates for agenda item 3 and 4.
Yes.
Okay. Then thank you so much for doing that for both of you. And then agenda item, unless there's any other questions or comments, agenda item 5 is adjournment. So let me pause for a second in case there are any other questions or comments.
This is Maria from Amarillo College. I just have a quick question regarding the password reset. You said that both of the sites are going to stay the same. So that's including the admin and the student portal site. So if we created a test account for the student portal site, will that be pushed over as well? Okay.
No, not the student account, not the test accounts for students.
Will we get a different test account once we go live so that we can test applications as through the student portal?
As a student, let me check on that. I'm not sure, but I can follow up on that question.
Randy Enix, Texas A&M. Our processing team had kind of given me a list of priorities that they wanted to make sure were addressed. And so I wanted to kind of come back to what Matt had asked earlier was, is there going to be a list of fixes? Because there are still things that we need on our application before we can successfully use this for applicants, like hours not being reported for extracurricular activities. A lot of that has to do with our holistic review. Just calling it an undergrad application 4-year and 2-year will cause confusion because our students don't know the difference. Undergrad to them means nothing. You need to say freshman or transfer. And so I'm just curious if those things have been fixed. I didn't hear that addressed here, and I wasn't included on an email that when we reported this that said yes or no, these items have been fixed. So I kind of need to know where we are on a lot of this stuff because I kind of second what Cindy said. I don't think we're ready for launch. There's just too many unknowns with this, especially if we're not going to be able to test again before we go live. Big concerns.
I can certainly check on the ones that you specifically reported for your institutions and where we are on the status for those.
And we can share that out with this full group as well. So just want to make sure that we'll be following up with this full group with any of the follow-up items that have been mentioned during this meeting.
I'm doing one final call for any questions or comments. Yeah.
I just want to also, I mean, I know we're all saying this, but I want to reiterate as well, real concern, especially for institutions that ApplyTexas is their only application. There will be issues with us finishing our classes that are coming in and issues with the next cycle opening. And it will kill us when it comes to serving our students, especially if you rely only on ApplyTexas. And there's many institutions across the state that still rely just on ApplyTexas. And my team is still concerned. They sat through office hours. Y'all did address some things, but also said that other things would just be fixed when we went live. And that's a lot of ifs for us, trying to ensure that we serve our students. And so I just want to reiterate again that there are a lot of concerns going live this coming weekend and moving over. It can potentially hurt the incoming class still and the next class coming in.
Well, and again, I appreciate that you're willing to communicate with us what some of the updates have been given. What is the timeline for that? It's Tuesday, Friday's cut over, Monday we go live. Can you give us a feel for when we might know? Because we've got to prep applicants too. If some of these things are still not going to be working, or it really is going to be called an undergraduate 4-year app, we need to let our counselors and our recruiters know that. So when students call and have questions, we have answers.
Myra, can you speak to the timeline?
Yeah, so we can follow up on any of the ones that folks have reported here today and give you an update on where each of those is.
Today, is that what? Just
yeah,
to
yeah.
Myra, do you want to remind everyone about the webinar that's happening this afternoon? You mentioned that earlier.
Yes, so there is a webinar at 4 p.m. Where we've invited all institutions to come and get updates about the deployment, the issues that have been resolved, and also an opportunity to ask some Q&A.
And I think stemming from this meeting, we can make sure to incorporate some of the questions that y'all asked in the webinar. I think that is one way that, we can make sure that a broader group receives the information as well. And I just want to also echo what Sarah said earlier. And, we hear your concerns, but we are committed to delivering a quality application because we know, like you said, Dara, it is incredibly important for students and for institutions. And so that's why we prioritized EDI issues, and then resolving all of the critical bugs that have been surfaced through the testing from your teams and ours. So again, super grateful for your team's really deliberate effort in testing and surfacing these issues. And I know that in the webinar later today, we will go into some more of these issues and updates on what is resolved.
Where can we find details on joining the webinar? I'm on the website, but I don't see anything. I don't know if I'm just missing it.
Let me get that for you. Let me send a link here in this chat so that we can you can register to join if you haven't already.
Myra, you can
And
send it
just
to me and I can send it out to the committee
Okay, perfect.
after this.
Okay.
And for all listening in, it was on the most recent email where there's an opportunity to register for the webinar.
I think the subject line on that was ApplyTexas go live date, I think. Any other questions or comments? Okay. If not, then this concludes the business of the ApplyTexas Advisory Committee for June 4th. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
I will make a motion.
Thank you.
Tammy Adams.
Cindy Hess, I second that motion.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Cindy. Okay, members, please raise your hands if you are in support. I'm going to do a quick count. And if you can take yourself off of mute and say no if you do not. All right, the motion does pass. The time is 10:46 a.m. and the meeting is adjourned.
And I'll be sending that link shortly. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Claudette.